what they introduce is not intuitive to a new player.
How are they going to know where to find those things?
When you put out a post and say, what was your favorite part about the last update, and only 5% of the people vote for one of the major features of said update, I think you've got a serious problem on your hands.
Hello, and welcome to The Lab, a Minecraft podcast where we explore, experiment, and theorize about all things Minecraft. I'm Minor Thoughts, and with me is a man who I just don't have any wood puns for this week because I'm stumped. The Troj.
Boom, boom, ching. He's here till Thursday, folks. Wow. I'm going to call you Stumpy from now on. What a topic we've got in store for today, Minor.
In case you guys didn't know, it's going to be about Minecraft.
Wow. Breaking news.
I want to discuss the game itself, how it's played. Is it something that you could just pick up and play? Or is it something that you have to search the internet for? How do you play?
And this is piggybacking off one of the more recent episodes that we did where the intuitive nature of the game came up. And it's something that we've actually spoken about in a lot of podcasts over the last year or so as well. It just seems to keep coming up. And our friend Rebel JC over at Dig Straight Down podcast, he, following on from our discussion in one of our recent episodes, he put an episode out very recently about this. So please make sure you head over there and give that podcast a listen as well. It's a great podcast. But something an issue that I've had with Minecraft, particularly in terms of the updates in recent times, is what they introduce is not intuitive to a new player. And one of the prime examples of that right now is the armadillo and the wolf armor, the dog armor. What on earth would make a new player think, hey, I need to get an archaeology brush an armadillo to get what it drops, and then make dog armor from that? That in no way is intuitive. And in no way, at least not yet at time of recording, is there a system within the game would make someone even remotely think to do that. But it goes deeper than that for me. And by deep, I mean ancient cities. When you start the game of Minecraft, let's say you've just got it for the first time, you know nothing about it, you put it into the game. They spent all that time putting out the wild update with the ancient city and the warden and all of that being like the primary focus. But what on earth tells a new player, hey, at the very bottom of the world in certain locations, there is this new experience that you can have. So as a new player, why would you even be down at the bottom levels of the world? How do you know that's the best place to find diamonds? How do you know the various levels that are best to dig for certain resources? How do you know this? It's not intuitive. Nothing there tells you that it's intuitive. The whole redstone thing, it is a mystery, and they've got, I guess, hints for redstone that you can find where, the ancient city that you as a new player have no idea how to find or that it even exists. And on top of that, how would you know that there's something underneath the portal that shows you these redstone hints? I know I'm monologuing and I apologize. There is so much about the game, particularly with the most recent updates, that's just not intuitive to a new player coming in. To me, that represents a problem.
Exactly. I think they're trying to look at those things and maybe put those in, especially for like the structures. They introduced putting more structures on the maps so you could find these things. But still, like you said, how one of those things is an ancient city. How do you know how to locate them? We know that you look for them in mountains because we've searched it or we've heard from the community. We know these things, but maybe a younger player doesn't know anything. How are they going to know where to find those things? And one thing that Rebel does that he asks the community is, how would you go about doing this? How would you go about implementing it? If you worked for Mojang, how would you implement this? And I thought one of those things could be utilize villages more and librarians, have books that maybe explain these things. I mean, it would give you a reason to go out and explore you find a book on how to do this or how to do that, especially in these new chiseled bookshelves. Those are, this could contain books on how to do different things. The only thing in the game that's sort of intuitive, sort of shows you how to do certain things is crafting, where you can see the different recipes and what's needed for those. But other than that, you're right. How are you going to know what to do for different things? And I know we're going off a lot of his episode and how he's talking about how things should be more intuitive. The only really hint, and he didn't mention this in his episode, but he said the only way you really know how to put together a wither is there's a block that shows a wither. It's one of the designs on the block. But there is also the painting that shows the soul sand and the construction of the wither. But again, how do you know what that means?
Well, exactly. I've played the game for 4 years now, and that is the first time I'd put that together when I heard that in the Dig Straight Down podcast. I was like, wait, what? There's something on a block? And I went, no, well, I'll be, and I hadn't put it together about the painting. But how often does a new player pick up a painting and put a painting down and see that and go, oh, this is a hint to something else? Because there's a lot of other paintings that don't have any hints to anything else. They're just a painting for the sake of painting. But, let's forget about the recent updates because, there's an argument to be made with a lot of the recent updates is what they're introducing is not intuitive, like the trail ruins, right? A new player walking around is going to see that and go, oh, look, terracotta on the ground. That's great. And not know that there's a whole structure under it. The usefulness of these structures too, that's not a topic we're coming into. But let's go back to the core mechanics of Minecraft, right? But someone wants to play Minecraft and beat Minecraft. Miner. What is the end game for Minecraft? What is the goal? In simplest terms, if someone wants to finish Minecraft, what do they have to do?
Beat the dragon.
Beat the dragon.
Roll the credits.
That's it. Okay, so let's take that. The fact that the credits come out after you've done away with the dragon and jumped back through the portal, right? Let's just take that as that is the game, just for a moment, because that's where the credits roll. Therefore, that is the intended end, so to speak, of the game. You've spawned into a new world for the first time. You get instructions how to move, how to jump, that you basically need to punch trees, you need to make a crafting table, which unlocks the crafting book, and then every other item that you pick up in the game, you get the alert, new recipes unlocked. So let's argue that you can get a progression up and logic would dictate that, you find armor, you find diamonds, you gear up, and, you follow the recipe, the crafting book. What would tell you that you need to go into the nether as the next step?
Yeah. And I think I had mentioned this to Rebel that it should be toggleable. Tooltips, you see it in other games. It's kind of like, especially in, what do they call it? Your, in the intro of a game, how to duck, how to run, how to do this. When you access different areas, it'll have tooltips, which you can turn on or off in certain games. Some games you want those things on until you figure the game out. And that's, like I said in a previous episode, that's just another one of those things that you could toggle on or off. The tooltips, the progression of the game could be explained, especially for brand new players. If you're not going to put it into the game to where it has to be discovered through books or whatnot, just have, simple tooltips, basic instructions on how to beat the game, how to get to the end.
I think so, and the fact that you do have to go, well, as a new player, you spawn into this world. Let's say you spawn into a plains biome, right? There's nothing starting that lets you know that there's other dimensions. You don't know that there's a nether, and you don't really know there's an end. But let's assume you know that there's an end game. I think you have to know that there's an end game. Otherwise, you just play it as a sandbox forever and a day, right? Let's assume you know you need to beat a dragon, but you don't necessarily know how to reach it, right? So let's assume you've geared up. We know as experienced players the next step is you need to go to the nether, because that is the next step. You need to go to the nether so you can get blaze rods. All right. You get to let's say you've geared up, and let's assume that by them adding in the ruined portals is a hint to go to the nether, which I think is a great addition. I think Rebel JC says that as well in his podcast. Let's assume you logically put it together that, these portals lead to somewhere. So let's see what the go is, right? So let's assume that you figure out you've got to use it out of obsidian. So let's assume that you've figured out that you can't use a crying obsidian. You need to make this portal this size with this amount of obsidian. You've then got to figure out somehow, okay, how do I turn the portal on? Is it intuitive that you would use some sort of fire to light the portal? Is that intuitive? I would argue no.
Well, it just it depends. At the ruined portals, sometimes you'll find flint and steel in the chest nearby,
True.
or a fire charge.
Okay.
So,
all right, I'll grant you that. Okay, I'm going to run through the progression of the game here, right? Okay. Let's assume that you've assumed that this is a portal to some other dimension. Let's assume that you've figured out that you don't have to use a crying obsidian. You need to rebuild it all with obsidian, keeping in mind that there's crying obsidian in some of the portal frames of those structures. Let's assume then that you've been given a flint and steel or a fire charge, and that you've then again assumed that you need to use that to light the portal. Let's assume you've done that and you've come in. You spawn into the nether, right? You don't spawn into the nether, but you travel into the nether. What tells you your next step?
90% of the time you spawn into the basalt deltas.
I do, correct.
You're not going to know where to go from there.
But if I was a new player and that's what I spawned into, you know what I'd be going? Beep that and walk straight back through. There's no way I'd take that on.
Back out.
Yeah, exactly. But let's assume, again, see how many times I'm saying the word assume here? Just keep a note of that. Let's assume you spawn into a nether waste, right? Your next step that we know is that you need to go and find a fortress. If you walk in the wrong direction and travel in the wrong direction, you could travel for so long until you found a fortress. But how do you know that that is the next step to complete the game of Minecraft? How do you know you got to find a fortress? How do you know you got to find a blaze? How do you know you've got to kill blaze to get their drops? How do you know that you need to find endermen to kill endermen to get their eyes, and then combine the blaze drops with the enderman eyes to create eyes of ender? How do you then know to go back into the overworld and then throw that eye and follow it? How do you know? What leads you from that point to endgame?
I mean, you'll be able to see some of these recipes in the crafting book. Again, a new player is like, Eye of Ender, what is that used for?
Yeah, exactly. You know, you might accidentally make it. All right, we haven't actually got to there. How do you know that you need to, unless you've opened up the recipe, how do you know that exists? The only way to open up that recipe is to have held an ender pearl and a blaze rod, and then make the blaze rod into blaze powder or whatever it is. Then you have the recipe. But from the minute you get into the nether, how do you know what to do logically?
Yeah, I don't know. I still keep going back to the simple solution would be for Mojang to put in those tips that you see at the very beginning of the game, you know, how to move. And because once you've done the basics, you don't know what to do, you know, how to beat the game. I think they could just expand on that. Yeah, it would be a lot more work to make it more immersive, have these hints spread out throughout the world on how to do different things. I don't know, simple solution, expanded tooltips.
Yeah, I think the idea that I sort of had was maybe they need a quest system for the natural progression of, all right, with bearing in mind is the dragon. Maybe they need a quest. Now, I look at the Vault Hunters pack that Iskall did, and it's an overwhelming mod pack. You know, there is so many different facets to it. But one of the great things that they did is, and very recently, they put in a quest system. And what the quest system says is, do this, right? You don't necessarily know how to do it, but make this, craft this. And it sort of walks you through the process on how to play Vault Hunters, which is, it's Minecraft, but it's so not Minecraft that it could be its own standalone thing, you know? It's just using the Minecraft base to make this game. So it walks you through how to do it, what things are, and goes from there. I think that would be an interesting way to do it. It has various quests that, not necessarily would tell you what to do, but, it would at least give you a hint to go, you need to go this way. And then once you've activated the nether portal and you've gone into the nether portal, it could give you the story of, ancient fortresses and whatever. So it gives you some hint on what to do next. A couple of years ago, a friend of mine, she started playing Minecraft just on the blue because she'd seen one of my streams and thought she'd give it a go. And the amount of times that she would be messaging me, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I find that? How do I find this? How do I find a fortress? It's been 3 days. I still haven't found a fortress. Is there a way to find a fortress? But she was asking me. We had a comment from High Hopes over on Twitter from a couple of episodes ago. And it said, is the fact that community had to research and look up answers on how to do things, is that what has led to the Minecraft community being what it is today? There's some merit to that. And I'm not disagreeing with that. And I think for the most part, yes, probably has what's created the community. But I'm just talking simply from a game design perspective as a new player picking it up for the first time. Like if I hadn't have had DTG, my son, teaching me the ropes of the game when I first started playing, I don't know whether I'd still be playing or not, because I don't know whether I would have been bothered to sit there on the internet and search up the answers on how to do things. I just would have maybe just played the game for a bit and, oh yeah, that's what Minecraft's about, placing blocks.
And to be fair, if I want to know how to do something, then I will most often look it up. But that's only because I've been playing for a while.
Well, and that's the thing too, and you and I, we follow the happenings and the news because we have to, because we do the podcast, and we're on interims and we make content and all of those sort of things. I'm just looking at the updates, from Minecraft at the moment, and there's a lot of things there that are good updates. But then you start getting into things like, where is it here? The Ancient City, where they have spent basically an entire update fleshing out Ancient City. It's a major component. It's a major system of the game, right? In terms of a major experience of the game, I should say. But it's not intuitive to find it. No, nothing heads you in that direction. And really, there's no point in going there. So now we're getting into a different topic. Are the updates, are they off base at the moment? Is it actually heading in the wrong direction? Or maybe that's a topic we need to talk about as well. But then you have a look at archaeology. Again, spent a lot of development time on archaeology, touted as a major part of the particular development cycle, but there's nothing intuitive about it. The trail ruins, people walking through a jungle and they see terracotta on the ground. What prompts them to go digging intuitively? It's like, oh, that's just a feature of the ground, And again,
right,
what does it actually give you that's needed, wanted in any way?
Right, and what's to tell them is, if they start digging with their shovel, they dig into a piece of gravel and they didn't know they were supposed to brush it. They didn't know it looked slightly different. And and you could find different things in the art if you knew that you were supposed to make a brush. There are just so many things.
Well, the only time
I think they could do.
The only time you're going to know to make a brush is if you've collected copper and smelted it and got a copper ingot, you've picked up a stick and a feather. Then you will have the recipe. But then once you've got a brush, as you said, how do you know what to brush? How do you know? You could walk around going, oh, I'm brushing this dirt, I'm brushing this sand, I'm brushing this. And by golly, by gosh, no way would I think, hey, I got to brush myself an armadillo to get some armor for my dog that's going to jump in lava anyway.
Right. And I think you said it right, really boils back down to Mojang is assuming we're going to know how to do these things, or assuming that we're just going to ask our friends or our community, or assuming that we're just going to look it up on the internet. But, again, a young player maybe doesn't have access to the internet, he just picking it up by himself on his own and wanting to play the game. I think is, kids and short attention spans is quickly going to get bored with it if he doesn't know what he's supposed to do.
100% agree. And if you've got to keep going to the internet to find out what your next step is, that's something that's probably not quite right. Despite the fact for the past 10, 12 years, whatever, Minecraft's built a community like that. In the modern world in which we are moving, where people have got TikTok brains, I don't mean any offense by that, but, as you said, people's attention spans are coming down, massively. Like YouTube videos, if you don't hook someone in the first 7 seconds, your videos, you may as well not bother making it, YouTube shorts, you're better off making a 10-second YouTube short because that's all people's attention spans are for. That's the society which we are generating and we are making. And if Minecraft wants to stay relevant, they need to keep that in mind. Circling back to, the updates and, are they spending time on things that don't matter? Maybe we can put this in the rotation to discuss. And if you want to hear us discuss that, maybe let us know in the comments below. But, I put, last week, I put out a poll on my YouTube channel and I got 108 votes, which is not a small sample size. I think that's a decent sample size. I asked, what was the best part of the 1.20 update? And the options were new wood, all things sniffer and new flowers, all things archaeology, and the armor trims. Armor trims got 56%, new wood got 36%, archaeology 5%. So no one cares about archaeology. So again, I know, slight tangent. Are they working on facets of the game that are poorly implemented, that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, that people are not going to do? What is the point of doing archaeology if no one does it? Yeah. I know that's a tangent. I apologize.
I couldn't answer that. With the way the development cycle is going and the way they're adding things, like apparently the armadillo is going to be part of 1.20.5. So I really don't know how they're adding things in, how this development cycle is going. Do we really know what 1.21 is about? We still don't have a name. They said combat and tinkering. And we've got a little bit of the tinkering and a little bit of the combat with the trial chambers, but who knows what Beijing's going to do.
I think we're getting into a position here where we've got a little bit of a problem on our game, because let's go back to 1. I think is one of the best updates. Well, it's certainly the best update I've experienced in my time. It was extremely needed. By that just is a no-brainer. Like updating the Nether, very, very needed. But it's probably the last update where they come out and said, we're doing the Nether update, and they were taking the feedback. We all knew where it was headed, right? So the community as a whole could give feedback on it, and we got a product at the end of that whole process that was fantastic. We've got ourselves into a position now, and I'll explain why we're in this position now, and it's our own fault as the community. But we're in a position now where we don't know what they're talking about, right? They come in and say, oh, guys, we have got a surprise for you. Archaeology. Whoop-de-friggin'-do. We don't get an option to say, we don't get in a position now to be able to say, we would like you to go head in that direction. They're heading the direction of what it is in their image, but it may not be reflective of what the community actually wants, because they're heading the way the development team think it should. But, when you put out a post and say, what was your favorite part about the last update, and only 5% of the people vote for one of the major features of said update, I think you've got a serious problem on your hands. And at the end of the day, it's our fault as a community for the amount of grief we gave them over the 1.17, 1.18 Caves and Cliffs update, or whatever number that was. The way that it was such a massive undertaking, and the community gave them so much over how they did it, and they, couldn't do certain things and change certain things. We've only got ourselves to blame. We're in this situation right now. Looking at bigger picture, I think we've got a problem on our hands for the longevity of the game if they keep putting out things like archaeology and no one cares about it.
Yeah, I really, really wonder myself how this year is going to pan out. It's the 15th anniversary of the game. Some people are expecting big things, where others are like, what's going on? They're keeping pretty quiet. Again, we're into snapshots again, and people are going to be watching week by week what's being added, but who knows? Things have gotten weird for Minecraft. But we'll be sure to follow it and give our thoughts. We'd like to get your thoughts and opinions on things that we discuss on the show. Let us know how you feel Let us know what you think about the progression to the game. Is it intuitive? If you picked up Minecraft for the first time, when you picked up Minecraft for the first time, did you know what to do, or did you have to ask a friend? Did you have to go to the internet? Let us know on the socials, Twitter, X if you prefer, MC_lab podcast. You can reach us by email at minecraftlabpodcast@gmail.com, through the Interrealms smb.com website, and you can reach us and connect with us there and let us know what you think. We'd really like to know, and we will discuss these responses that we get from you guys in feedback episodes at the end of the month.
Now, this is one topic I'm really hoping we get a lot of feedback on, a lot of thoughts, because I think it's one that affects the community as a whole. And yeah, it's one I would like to revisit again when we hear people's thoughts. Maybe I'm right off base with my thoughts on what we've talked about here. And I know we went into a tangent there into game development as well, but it sort of seemed like a natural progression of the discussion. But am I wrong? Have I not taken things into account about, the natural progression of the game? I really want to know. So yeah, please definitely to reach out. And can I also just throw in there, make sure that you go and check out Rebel JC's Dig Straight Down podcast. If you enjoy our content, our podcast, you will definitely enjoy his as well.
Right.
But with that, Mr. Minor Thoughts, time of recording, it's lunchtime for me, so I think it's time for me to go and not find wood this week, but find something to eat.
I am going to head off to bed because it is past my bedtime, but I will dream of blowing things up. All right. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Goodbye, all.